Well, it's good to be back on. I have Theresa Hubbard. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist and a certified hypnotherapist. Again, I want to give you her website, theresahubbard.com. That's Teresa. Hubbard is Hubbard. Okay, let's pick back up, Theresa. First of all, I want to tell you that you have such a beautiful energy. Just listening to you speak, and I'm sure your clients must love this about you. It creates a sense of calm. Do you hear that a lot?
Yes, I do.
It's a wonderful attribute and characteristic. It's probably partly why you're in the field you're in. So let's get back to your client's story relating to emotion and that the individual gets reactive to those external experiences and emotions and feelings. I think that is such a big one for us, relating this to emotional intelligence. So please continue.
Sure. Well, we have a story, in our head about who we are. And the experiences that we have emotionally that contradict that story, we tend to push aside or to blame someone outside ourselves for causing that reaction in us. And understanding, exploring that part of ourselves that actually is bringing about that reaction in us is really important for us to understand who we are and how we see the world and how we see ourselves, so that we can really, truly be connected with other people to develop compassion and grace in our relationships, as you mentioned earlier in that article.
Yeah, and it's so very true when you say being in touch with and exploring that reaction so that we can be graceful and so that we can be compassionate with others. It's such it is an exploration, and it does take time, and it is a process. And and you also speak of this concept of needing one another and being connected. And part of that exploration is going to make us better at making those connections. And I think to a certain degree in our society today, and tell me what you think, is we are fairly disconnected, that we don't always realize how we do need each other and we do need to communicate in a compassionate way.
Yes. It's very easy to not be really connected, to not show our real emotion. I was thinking about, working with teenagers and how their social media and the texting and even, the use of Skyping, if I'm Skyping with a client, teenagers will tend to use the messaging that's at the bottom to communicate, because the communication of the actual emotion is too difficult. So maybe they'll use, what are those, like the face icons?
Yeah, the emoticons, yeah.
The emoticons, thank you, to communicate what they're experiencing, because sharing the actual emotion is so uncomfortable for them.
And that's really scary, Theresa. Just as you're saying that, and I'm aware of it, I teach freshmen in college, and we're losing the art of communication. And it's so important to be able to articulate what we're feeling. I mean, like the story you were starting to share with us about your client with the emotions, don't you see that a lot?
Yes, that's very common. Very common. Mm-hmm.
And how do you get an individual like that? I mean, I know it's a process, and I know this is kind of a loaded question. We're not going through counseling, but, I try to help my clients by taking something as simple as the pause. Let's just, recognize that we're in a triggered situation and just take a breath, maybe. Do you use that ever?
Oh, yes. I use various things, taking a breath. I work with people on mindfulness often. Yeah. I also talk to them about being in shock. and things that they can do to help themselves come out of shock, whether it's parasympathetic shock, which is when we're not responding, or sympathetic shock, which is when we're talk, do. And I suggest that they have ice packs in their house, soft ones, because if you throw a hard one, it hurts. But having them available and really helping each other. I mean, I tell couples that I work with, the day that you got married, whether you realize it or not, you accepted the responsibility to help each other succeed in this relationship. And often we aren't in the same place at the same time. And when one of us is struggling, it is the other person's responsibility to help them through that struggle. And so if that is, helping them, come out of that shift by using an ice pack or reminding them to take a deep breath or say, it's okay, I'm going to be here, why don't we take a break for a few minutes? That's not often what people do when they're struggling. But yes, teaching people how to really be aware of their experience, what's really happening.
And another thing is you're saying that I think sometimes that those negative emotions that we have such difficulty with, I mean, we love the positive and beautiful ones, but those negative ones I think are also such a beautiful barometer for what's happening beneath the surface. But we're used to, fighting it. Yes.
Definitely. I mean, I believe anger and sadness are necessary emotions. I mean, they really serve a purpose in our life if we understand what they are and the purpose that they serve, and that we can express them without damaging other people. But that's not what we believe, and it's not what we've been told for the most part. And then I work with people on and trusting. They have to trust me, and I am very direct with clients, but I am very compassionate, and they know that I'm not judging them. But we talk about those other emotions that cause us damage, the negative ones, loneliness and jealousy and guilt and shame. And those are the ones we have a really hard time going towards. But understanding they're a part of all of our experience. But they keep us very disconnected from ourselves and from other people.
Yes, they do. And I do work on the chakra system as well. And that also brings me to a place of this heart center and this heart energy that, people, that is all encompassing, this positive and negative. It's like the male energy and the female energy, the yin and the yang, and kind of touching all of that is what really makes us so powerful. Going back to that concept where you said exploring those reactions, exploring the emotionality of who we are. Now, so I want to ask you this question. Why do you think, and I think we've already kind of nailed it, but that it is so difficult to communicate with compassion and grace? Do you think I believe it is something obviously that's learned, but do you think that it's due to this disconnect, or what is your philosophy on that? I know it's a big one, isn't it?
It is a big one. I could probably talk about this for an hour. But I think we have such a need to be connected, to be chosen, to be wanted and valued. And we've learned that certain emotions or certain ways of feeling will cause us loss or abandonment. And so we disconnect from those experiences, from our genuine experience, to set up our relationships, we think, in a way to protect us from being abandoned or from not being chosen, which in fact, unfortunately, the opposite is usually what happens.
And there's that barrier, there's that facade, there's that wall, because I was just speaking somewhere the other day, and I remember saying, not everyone wants to, it's not an exciting thing to go in and say, hey, I can't wait to work on myself.
No,
Wow.
it's not. I don't usually hear that from people. They're like,
Yeah,
oh.
yeah. We don't elect to go in and open up that inner landscape, right? And get kind of naked, so to speak, and look at all that. But yeah, I think when you talked about wanting to be valued and this kind of fear of rejection and that, it really is real, but it also speaks to this tender, sensitive quality that really we all hold
Yes.
as human beings.
Yes. Yes, we do.
And I think that having compassion and grace in our heart, right?
Yes. Yes.
And in the article, it mentioned, I'd love to get your take on this. The idea, or they say, we're in a place of compassion fatigue, or so people say. I haven't quite heard that before.
Right. And I agree. The article was powerful. I loved it, and I will have to get a copy of it because it speaks so much to my experience. People often ask, how do you do what you do? How do you work so many hours? How do you manage all that? And it's like, because it doesn't wear me out. I think the biggest compliment that I ever got from a client was, it doesn't matter what time of day I see you. If it's 8 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock at night, you're just as present. You're the same person. And that's because I believe of the compassion and the grace. It doesn't wear me out. I want to be there for people. How often do we get that experience to be in front of someone who really is there, who hears us, who doesn't judge us, who doesn't try to fix us? They're just present for us.
Oh, and please hold that, Theresa. That is so beautiful. I always say it's a sacred experience when I have the opportunity to witness, to be in that space. And I love that you say that. I feel your energy. Everyone, we're going to take a break. I want to remind you to go to Theresa's website at theresahubbard.com, and you can find out more about her. We need to find out. You can look at the Journey Home retreats, which I am fascinated with. When we come back, we're going to continue this conversation. Stay with us.